it, son. You can tickle my tits and call me Mary.
You dirty fecker.
We finally have a good film to come out of Disney Marvel since Phase 3.
What? What the fuck?
When I sat down in the gallery of my local showcase cinema and scoffed the free olives, vegetable crisps and spicy coated peanuts before the film begun. Yes, I can be posh as fuck sometimes.
Cake and fine wine.
Obviously with my peanut M&M sharers bag for afters at the ready, of course.
A waffle thin mint. Oh, sir, it's only a tiny little thin one. Now, fuck off, I'm full.
I pondered on the Guardian films that had come before. Guardians first appeared back in 2014 when Marvel films came out once a year, maybe twice a year if you were lucky. Now I remember that because it was in the lead up to Age of Ultron, and up until this point the Marvel movies had all been based on Earth, yet Guardians was the first off-planet film. I remember thinking to myself, this isn't going to work, it doesn't tie in anywhere to what has come before. However, I remember the trailers looking alright, and as I had another 6 months before Ultron arrived, I went to watch it, and fuck me, I was blown away by it. It was smart, funny, and introduced great new characters that you couldn't help but love. 3 years later when Volume 2 came out, I was excited to see it and enjoyed this film too. Didn't think it was good as the first, but it was fun nonetheless and built on the characters and introduced Mantis to the family. Fast forward to the Infinity War and Endgame, where they once again made an impact to the Marvel Universe. For me, having these guys show up anywhere is always a bonus, because you know you're going to have a laugh. Except for the Christmas special, but hey, we won't talk about that. Since those days though, we've had Phase 4 and the start of Phase 5. And I think it's fair to say, most Marvel fans have just about had enough of this garbage merry-go-round of dog shit content from Disney that nobody now raises an eyebrow when something new is released.
Now I feel better.
Further proof that Marvel is a dying brand, which is a real shame for Guardians Volume 3 because it is generally a good film that will entertain even the most battle-wearied Marvel fan, and I fear that Guardians won't make as much money as it probably should. Listening to RK Outpost the other day, he said it probably needed 700 million just to break even, and I think nowadays a number that big is almost too much of an uphill struggle for Disney to reach because the momentum for the fans is all but fizzled out. But hey, Disney brought that on themselves, so fuck you, Disney.
What are you, fucking stupid?
Volume 3 starts off from the Christmas special, where they made their base on Nowhere, the dead Celestial's head. Now I'm not sure if I've missed something, maybe by not watching Thor Love and Blunder, but I didn't know why they made that their base. Everyone is fucking miserable, and Rocket is moping around thinking about his past, when Adam Warlock shows up and fucks everyone up and nearly kills Rocket. Adam gets injured and retreats, and the crew try and resuscitate Rocket, but find there is a kill switch on his heart that prevents them treating him. This starts the final adventure for the Guardians as they now have to find the key to kill the kill switch. Firstly, they go to Augoscope, which holds all the data on Rocket, as he was an experiment conducted by the villain of the film, the High Evolutionary, played by a guy whose name I'd certainly bastardise if I tried to say it, because if you do the whole say what you see, Mr. Chips, it would be Chuck Woody Luigi. That's horrendously bad, I apologise now. Anyway, as you would guess, the kill switch isn't there and they think it's been taken by one of the High Evolutionary's underlings, so they chase him down to counter Earth, a planet similar to ours, but filled with the High Evolutionary's experiments that worked. See, little background info, Mr. Evolutionary is basically some sick fucking scientist who experiments on life forms to try and make the perfect society. He made the Sovereign, which are those gold bellends that created Warlock, and his storyline through this is to make animal hybrids, but he keeps failing until Rocket figured out how and tells him. This drove the egomaniac mad as he couldn't believe little Rocket figured out something he couldn't. Hence we find out it was him who had Warlock find Rocket, as he wants Rocket's brain, as it appears Rocket is the one experiment that truly worked. It's Rocket who is the genius, the free thinker, the inventor, the super genius. Anyway, many battles ensue from this until they reach the final boss level. Who lives? Who dies? Go watch it for yourself. If you've not guessed yet, this film isn't really about the Guardians, it's more about Rocket in his past and his future. We see flashbacks throughout the film of him being grabbed out of his cage, to being experimented on, to being educated. We see him make friends with his fellow animals that have been experimented on, but from this we see how his friend shaped him into the character he is now and why he is how he is. And I've got to admit, I enjoyed seeing Rocket taking centre stage of the story. He's a great little character and it was nice to show him in such high regard. I felt the film was also about friendship and family, and I really liked that about the film. Nobody was trying to fuck anyone over, be the biggest and best. It was just friends loving each other and doing their best for each other. And I thought that was quite awesome. As per usual, the Guardians cast did a great job. They have such a good chemistry between them that now it just seems effortless for them. Their little squabbles together are always laugh out loud funny, and Drax was on top form. That fucker had me in stitches constantly. I have to say, I really liked Chuck Woody as the High Evolutionary. I thought he played that really well. Very menacing, as he was just so cold. No emotion for anyone apart from his own bruised ego. A man who only cared about perfection, which coupled with his cold-hearted approach to everything made him a convincing villain. However, The comic book purists might not like this version, as he's very different from the comic book. For starters, in the comic, he's a white dude from Manchester, England, who was born in the 1910s and was called Herbert Edgar Wyndham. So his and Rocket's path would never have crossed. In fact, Gunn's version is nothing like the comic book. There were some really belly laugh moments for me. One being Giant Groot on the furry planets, the gay security guard with Drax and Mantis, and the couch scene with Drax, just to name a few. Oh, and the F-bomb made me chuckle too. The Augoscope looked really cool. That was one thing about this that really stood out from everything, out of Phase 4 and now Phase 5. For this, the CGI was spot on. It wasn't Avatar level, but it was still really, really good. Something way, way better than any Marvel you have seen for a long time. A couple of ropey moments with the dog Cosmo, but other than that, the sets and the CGI were sweet.
Nice one, brother!
I said, nice, bruv!
Fucking nice one, brother!
Nice one, bruv! Brother!
Fuck off!
The soundtrack, as you would expect, is spot on and really kept the tempo of the film going, although the slow-mos walking throughout was a bit weird, considering there was a time frame to save Rocket, but, you know, small things. Things I didn't like so much: Adam Warlock. Bit of a double-edged sword, really. Now, I'm not a comic book nerd, I don't confess to be one, but I've heard Warlock's storyline is entwined with the Infinity Gauntlet, so I imagine he was probably left out of Infinity War and Endgame because of Captain fucking Marvelous. So for him to be in this film is not comic book accurate, and to be honest, he felt a little bit out of place. Like a cock at a lesbian orgy, you know. It was out of place and was of no real use. Although, I've got to admit, he did make me laugh a few times. But like I said, he didn't really contribute much, other than kick off the adventures by nearly killing Rocket. But to be fair, you could have had any character do that. All I will say though is on the end credits, I was happy to see him in his new role. Make of that what you will. There was a line in the film I thought was really fucking silly, and it gave me the big fucking eye roll, and that was the High Evolutionary talking to Peter Quill about how he'd visited Earth and loved the music and art, but found the place full of ignorance and bigotry. And I just thought, oh, shut the fuck up, you mewling quim. Also, it was quite repetitive in its storytelling. You would have something happen, some action sequence, that would then go to a flashback for Rocket, and then jump back to the Guardians squabbling with each other, and then some sort of slow-mo walk, and then a funny line. You know, it's kind of like, remember, you're trying to save Rocket here. Just get shit done quick. Overall, as I've said, this is the best piece of Marvel content to come out since Phase 3. It felt like the Guardians of old as opposed to the shit that's been churned out the last few years, which was great, and it was a good ending, I thought, for them. Be aware, there are 2 end credit scenes. The first one is worth watching, as I was happy with what I saw regarding the Guardians team, and the second end credit scene was a know-nothing scene. You could miss that if you really wanted to. Don't have to stay to the end of the fucking film, honestly. The film does try and tie up a few story threads. We see that with Gamora and what path she went on after Endgame. We see Kraglin man up and work out to use his whistle wand. We see more of the Sovereign and obviously Adam Warlock. Does a nice little job of tying a nice little bow in each of the Guardian story for now. My advice: get your peanut M&Ms from your local shop, can of fizz, maybe even treat yourself to some overpriced popcorn and go watch this film. If you love Guardians 1 and 2, you will enjoy this one too. I imagine some won't like the ending and of what happened to some of the crew and how the new Guardians shape up, but hey, make of that what you will. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe.